After the quiet revolution that gave birth to Brics, the group now faced its first major test: how to transform from an ambitious idea into a truly global force. This is what we are going to investigate in this second episode in the series. In 2010, South Africa officially joined Brics, transforming the bloc into a coalition that now spanned four continents. But this wasn't just about symbolism, it was a game changing move. But why was South Africa's admission a game changing move? Well, South Africa is Africa's second largest economy, with a GDP of 375 billion in 2010. Its infrastructure and financial systems made it the perfect gateway for Brics to access Africa's untapped potential. As Jacob Zuma, then president of South Africa, declared, the country's membership gave Brics a truly global character, connecting Africa's opportunities to the bloc's ambitions. Let us consider some of the facts. South Africa is a treasure trove of strategic minerals, supplying over 70% of the world's platinum and rhodium, metals indispensable to the electronics and green technologies. The country also controls vast reserves of manganese, used in battery technology, and chromium, critical for stainless steel. Its uranium reserves, extracted as a byproduct of gold mining, are essential for nuclear technology. In a world increasingly reliant on green energy and advanced technology, South Africa's resources position Brics as a key player in shaping the supply chains of the future. With South Africa on board, Brics wasn't just an economic bloc. It now held significant influence over the supply of critical metals essential for the industries of tomorrow, from semiconductors to renewable energy. South Africa's admission was a strategic move that would define Brics' hallmark approach to expansion. Every admission into Brics was calculated to further solidify the bloc's geopolitical weight to ensure its position as a global force. While South Africa's inclusion expanded Brics' economic footprint, the bloc also made its first bold challenge to the Western dominated financial system. At the G20 summit in 2010, Brics leaders demanded reforms to the IMF quota system. At the time, the United States controlled 17% of the IMF's voting power, enough to veto any major decisions, while Europe collectively held 30%. In stark contrast, Brics countries, representing 25% of the global GDP, held just 11% of voting power. Brics called for a fairer representation that reflected the economic realities of the 21st century. Western powers, particularly the United States and Europe, resisted, arguing that maintaining their control was necessary for global financial stability. While minor adjustments were made to increase quotas for emerging markets, Brics found the pace of reform too slow. The frustration fueled their resolve to create alternatives to the IMF and World Bank. The slow pace of IMF reform pushed Brics to take matters into their own hands. They began laying the groundwork for financial independence, starting with two bold initiatives. In 2012, Brics leaders proposed the creation of the New Development Bank, a direct challenge to the World Bank. Its goal was to finance infrastructure projects in emerging economies without the conditions imposed by Western institutions. Brics countries also signed agreements to trade in their local currencies, bypassing the US dollar. By 2013, these swaps accounted for over 150 billion in trade, marking the first concrete steps towards de-dollarization. With economic initiatives underway, Brics began asserting itself politically. South Africa's membership gave the bloc a stronger voice on African issues, further diversifying its influence. Brics took joint positions on global issues, opposing Western interventions in Syria and Libya. At the UN, the bloc's coordinated votes began to challenge the Western dominated narrative on climate change and trade policies as well. With South Africa's admission and bold demands for reform, BRICS began carving its path as a force to be reckoned with. But the most transformative moves were still to come. In our next episode, we'll explore how BRICS launched its own development bank and took its fight for financial independence to the next level. Hi, if you liked this episode, Breaking Boundaries, please do me a favor. Hit the like button and share and subscribe to watch the rest of the series in this new series called BRICS, The Rise of the New Global Power. And if you missed the first episode, The Quiet Revolution, please make sure to watch it so that you will know how it all began. The link is somewhere there.